everybody. My name is John Sadowski. I'm the president of Metro Valley Advertising, and welcome to another edition of the Personal Injury Marketing Newsletter. Today, I'm talking with John McCarthy of Summit Businesses. John is a profit coach for law firms. John, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of how you increase profits for personal injury law firms and law firms of all types?
Sure, will do. Well, thanks for the introduction, John. Great to speak with you again. So I'm the other side of the pond. So I'm in little UK, little England. But I was invited over to speak in Florida a few weeks ago, which is an amazing experience. Nice weather too. Much generally warmer and nicer in Florida than it is in the UK. But yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. I really enjoy what I do. I've worked with a huge range of firms and businesses. And for the last few years, I've been specialized in working with law firms, so especially after a huge success I had here with all my clients. They went on from about 200,000 a year profit to £1 million in profit in 3 years, and they've been growing at approximately £1 million net profit year on year since then. So the company's really absolutely accelerated at an insane rate. And not only has it grown, I think the key thing here is not just about profit, and making more profit does not mean you got to work harder. My client Stephen, within 3 years, well, he cut his hours in half within the first year. And within the first 3 years, he was able to take several months at a time away from work. So he was able to travel the world with his company grew without him having to be there. And that was what really sort of prompted me to niche down, because most of us are scared to niche, which is the most important thing in marketing. So I've did that, and for the last few years, I've been working with law firms. So it's a huge amount of fun. But to answer your question, how do I do that? Well, it's never any one thing. Business is a multiple different areas you've got to look at, but we do look at how the marketing is working, where the overheads can be reduced, how things can be more efficient, how people can work better, attracting the right customers through good marketing like yourself. So it's never any one thing. It's looking at the most, I guess, what's going to give the business owner the quickest wins, I think.
Gotcha. So you support law firms using what you call your profit system, and that has 5 levels of business ownership, 3 business pillars, and then you have a 9-step roadmap. Can you kind of give us an overview of that and then how those elements all come together?
Sure. Now I'm quite visual, so doing it with my hands is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, this has been put together by 2 very, very successful entrepreneurs who have built many multiple £1 million businesses, and they're both world-class coaches. And what we've done is we've pulled the best practice, the most up-to-date best practice that's out there. So even some great people already provide great information, and just putting it into a system so it's very logical and structured and easy to follow. So yes, the 5, the 3, and the 9. So we talk about initially, we talk about 5 levels of business ownership, and the first one is being completely overworked. If you ever started a business, you know what it's like. You're absolutely flat out. You don't know, no chance to sleep, no chance to look after yourself. It's just crazy, and either you go under, or ideally you kind of progress to level 2, which is what we call overwhelmed, where you're still, or overworked, I should say. So you're still busy, but business is starting to run fairly well. And a lot of businesses get to this level, but then they struggle to get to level 3, which is organized, because level 3 needs a lot of good systems, good processes, good people, and good management. And we tend to find that most law firms, most businesses, to be fair, will sit somewhere between 2 and 3, but they can't get to level 3 properly, where they can take several months off on holiday, unless the right people, the right systems are in place. And that's a good business. Level 3 is a great place to be. But the real entrepreneurs move on up to level 4 and 5. 4 is about being as the overseer, or you're becoming more of a leader. This is a bit more like a CEO, where maybe in a law firm, you've got your departments and they've all got the department heads, but rather than just fee earning, they're actually managing the business. And you might have a practice manager managing the business. So that's where you're just stepping back. You're giving really good direction to the business, and you've got the managers able to manage the business where you tend to lead. Then level 5 is it's like the serious entrepreneur level, where you own the business, where you don't even need to be in the country. It runs and grows, continues to increase in value without you being there. That's an elite level. So I work with my clients to work out where do they want to get to, and normally 3 is a good target. So getting out of 1 is going to be quite good. But normally the 3 to 4 people want to get to. Some want to get to 4 or 5 if they're looking to exit or succession plan, that kind of thing. So that's the 5 levels. The 3 pillars, we talk about vision, which is clarity on what you want to achieve and a plan to get there. Velocity, which is controlling the rate of your speed of growth. If you grow too quick, you can run out of money or run out of people. If you grow too slow, you're not getting enough cash or profit in. So that's about good profit, cash control, good marketing, good systems in place. And then we talk about the value pillar, which is getting the long-term stuff. And that's where you're going to 4 or 5 when you're getting great KPIs, good dashboards set up, brilliant leadership, good management, team engagement, all that very high-level stuff, which really helps the owner to sit back and get a brilliant team running the business for you. So that's the 3 pillars in essence. And as you can imagine, as a business starts to go up the 5 levels, each one of those pillars will need to be improved and built upon as they go up. So that's quite a long answer. I haven't even got to the 9 steps yet. I can go into those if you want me to. So that's quite a long answer.
I think that's a pretty good start. Gives people a good idea, think of what you do and what you bring to the table when they work with you. So what are some of the key financial indicators that law firms should monitor on a regular basis?
That's a great question. So many businesses, and I think law firms in particular could be quite suffer with this, is they think about revenue all the time, and it's all about lead generation and revenue. And of course, revenue is vanity. Your profit is your sanity, but then cash flow is reality. So I think some people find law firms a bit complex to manage. They're not actually that bad. So the key thing when you're driving revenue, it's got to be lead generation. And what it's costing you to generate that lead as well. So there could be a spend in marketing. How many leads does that bring in so you can get your cost per lead? What's your conversion rate? So you know your cost per client. What's the value of that client? Because they may come back to you more often, or it could be a certain size of case or work they might bring to you. That's on the marketing side. We're also going to need to know profitability is key. We don't want to wait till the end of the year for the accountant to tell us we're profitable or not. We need to be kind of measuring that at least a monthly and probably even a case-by-case value. And I appreciate for some that's quite difficult and it will vary. But when you start to measure numbers, you'll start to see patterns. And I think it's once you get that granularity, it allows you to make really good decisions. Without it, we're shooting in the breeze. I was in the military, I was competition on a machine gun and the rifle, and it was all about zeroing in that weapon. We would put hundreds and hundreds of rounds down the range, and you're always looking to get in that tight grouping. Once you've got a tight grouping, you can do anything. Without that, you can't measure, you can't adjust. So it's about looking at some of the metrics in your data, understanding kind of the 1% that you can do to improve each metric, just one bit by bit. And it's amazing how much impact you can make with the boring stuff, the boring 1% improvements, when from a marketing and advertising perspective, the impact that can make.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and that 1%, you're right. Over time makes a big difference in a business.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I get that.
And I think
What
the
are
other
some
thing is, sorry, just go back to the KPI one. I think the key thing is, the very first thing you should be doing is looking at profitability rather than driving leads. So some of that is reducing your overheads. Some of it is prices up, because often we don't price as high as we could do or should do. And the other thing is the efficiencies. It's kind of the third bit. So, are we spending too long doing certain pieces of work, which we could have, done quicker? Is it systems, is it processes, technology? Is it training, good management? We often find there's a lot of profit being wasted because some of the simple things aren't being done well enough. Because most lawyers are really busy themselves. They're busy working in the business and doing the law work themselves, and often don't get to manage the team as well as they probably could or would like to. There's always loads of work that can be done there.
So you mentioned money being wasted. What are some of the common expenses that law firms often overlook?
Not measuring return on investment for marketing is the first one.
Okay.
That's huge, because I'm just watching someone on LinkedIn yesterday, wanting to get a social media provider. I'm like, oh, there's so many out there that will keep you really busy, lots of noise, a lot of time being wasted on posts of various things, and you haven't done the basics. So Yeah, marketing is a good one. Measuring marketing's not bad. Marketing's is a lifeblood of any business, but we need to start measuring it so we can refine it and
Hmm.
refine it and improve it. And that's the first one. Time's obviously the biggest cost. So, for example, in a law firm, you might find that the fee earner that's worth, let's say, $500 an hour is doing work that's only worth $250 an hour or $50 an hour, and they're just doing too much admin. And some of that they just get so busy they don't get a chance or don't know who to delegate to, or people aren't trained, or maybe things aren't running as smooth as they could be. So things could be delegated and managed well. Sometimes it's junior members of the team, just not being skilled or confident enough to do certain things. So they end up wanting time from the seniors. If mistakes are made, I mean, you know as well as I do in a law firm, if mistakes are getting made, the senior lawyers have got to come in and fix things. So, and I think because time isn't used, and I'm as guilty as anybody, because time isn't always used as effectively as possible, they tend to get overworked. Then there's no time to do the working on the business stuff.
Hmm. Okay. So beyond winning more cases, what can personal injury law firms and all firms do to diversify and increase their revenue streams?
So I think the first thing I would say, I always do my clients is look at if you can, go back and look at all your cases and see if you can find patterns to which are the most profitable. Because if you said it's not just about more work, we want to get profitable work or good work. So I always get really clear before we do any marketing on who's the grade A client. Who are the clients we love to work with, who are easy to work with, who don't aren't time sinks, stealing loads of our time, who pay on time, and all those kind of things. Maybe there's some kind of I think with personal injury it's probably a bit of a challenge, but because some can settle or not settle, and I completely understand that with those kind of lawyers. But maybe if they took a look, you might find some kind of patterns that are worth taking on, some are not worth taking on, or less likely to provide a profit, I should say. Because if you think about it, if you could find even the top 20% of type of cases or type of clients that are good to work with and will be more profitable, and it probably is the 80-20 rule. Once you've identified who that 20% is, just try and target that kind of work or that kind of client. Just doing the 20-80 rule is going to have a massive impact.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So can you discuss a little bit about, effective marketing strategies for law firms and in particular for PI law firms?
Difficult specifically for PI, but I think what I do with all my clients before I let them do any marketing is we get control of their cash flow, just to be managing it well, and profit margins. Then we do that piece around, who is that grade A client? Who are the type of cases or type of client you want? And we do a lot of work on that, and we get really clear on who they are, the avatar. And the more niche you can get, the better. And this is a really interesting thing because, especially all of us really, but lawyers are they're so focused on generating more work. They always want more work, and rarely do they turn it down. So they often end up taking in the work they might be better off not taking on, taking someone else instead. But the tighter you can get that avatar, and the better you can understand who they are, what they want, what their problems are, and really think at quite a deep level, you can then start to identify whatever marketing strategy suits them. So it's hard to say any particular marketing strategy. It depends who your clientele is. It might be Facebook, TikTok, TV advertising, introductions, referrals. It could be anything, but it's really working out who they are, where they are, how do they want to receive that information, and working on what you can measure as well. So it's hard to say a specific strategy, but the principles are the same. Get really clear on the avatar. I use StoryBrand, Donald Miller's StoryBrand a lot. I find that absolutely brilliant. When you go through that book and go through their 7-step process, it really helps you understand how to communicate with your target audience much better. And that just, it flips the whole, your content you're using, how you're talking on your website, on your social media, on your advertising, whatever it might be. It really helps you engage at a much better level. Because I think as human beings, or as consumers, we're getting far more sophisticated now in what we want to hear and what we'll just block out, because there is so much noise, especially on social media. We just will block out loads of it. So the clearer we can get to that niche and then get a good messaging, and like, for example, I use StoryBrand, it's going to make your marketing a lot better, whatever channel you use.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you're speaking directly to a specific person, it's more likely to resonate. And that all goes back to, like you said, clarifying that client avatar. So what are some of
Yeah.
those important performance metrics that law firms should focus on?
Performance metrics. Um, I think I always like to categorize them in different elements. One would be the marketing, business development. Some would be in operations, and then I guess then there's the tail end. So I think in the marketing I covered some already, leads, conversion rates, value, all that kind of thing. I think some of the metrics in the middle and the operations. But I know when I was in Florida, I was really, really impressed with some of the American law firms, how good they are. And these were personal injury lawyers, how fast they are at getting back to people. Yeah, they're often they've got someone in particular, or they're outsourcing a team. I think if you're not doing that, you could really learn a lot. Where people are their targets, like you've got to get back with them in 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. In the UK, honestly, they are so bad. It's unbelievable. There's still an attitude over here where the lawyers think they should be too important to answer the phone, and I'll make my clients wait for me. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to explain to these old school lawyers, they're not going to wait. They're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, in today's society, I mean, all the studies that demonstrate, the time to respond to leads and the fall off in conversions is sometimes it's astounding
Yes,
how
yes.
how how drastic it is. So yeah, I get that. So in the beginning, John, you talked a little bit about, some of your successes. Can you give us an example of a law firm where you really significantly increased their profits over time?
Yeah, sure. So the first one was Clarkson. They had 200K to 1 million in 3 years and reduced his working hours by 50% in the first year. That's a huge one. But I'll give you some other stories actually, which are, I guess, like I said, profit is important, but often there's so many better ways to find cash flow and profit that we're just not doing. There's a client a few years ago, again, it's a law firm, and I'd only been working with them for a few months, like 6 months, and we were approaching Christmas, and there's three partners, and they were quite unhappy. You could just feel the mood dropped in the Zoom room, and they realized they were going to be 120,000 in deficit coming into the new year. They had a big VA tax bill to pay and personal indemnity insurances to pay, and I always do a cash flow forecast for my clients, and they didn't have the cash, and they thought they'd not be able to take money home for the family over Christmas. They thought I'd have to all invest tens of thousands themselves, to support the company going. And I said, I'm not having that. And I ex-military, so my military head went on. I went, I'm not having that. We're going to find the money. I said, this is just post-COVID. I said, you have been absolutely flat out with conveyancing. Well, one of their teams was conveyancing team. Where's the money? And they didn't know. I said, right, where could it be? Where could it be? And they found that just one fee and I had £30,000 worth of cases not closed. There was a load more invoices not being sent out. There's a load of invoices that have been sent, not paid, and not being chased. And we literally found 100,000 in about 2 weeks of
Hmm.
missing money.
Wow.
And this is just, we all get so busy. It's that overwhelmed and overworked at the bottom. We get so busy and flat out, especially, post-COVID. They just didn't have time to stop and look. And no one's
Yeah.
managing all the fee earners to do. And I think, and again, it goes back to that habit that many fee earners might have. They've been ingrained to take on lots of work, but not trained to close the deals and get them paid. And we can
Yeah.
all be guilty of that. I'm sure I can certainly do that as well. So that's one. Working with the clients at the moment, a couple of million turnover, a good business. She's only working, the business owner's only working 4 days a week. So you could say it's running quite nicely, decent profits, excuse me. But what they don't have is the profit margins per department. So the
Hmm.
first thing we're doing, as a worst case scenario, you've got 5 departments. 4 your departments could be subsidizing one of them, but we don't know that. So I'm not going to grow that department and I'll do any marketing until I know which ones are in profit and which ones aren't. So often it really is simple stuff and sitting back. And some lawyers can do it, and some would struggle to work out how, but it can always be done. So yeah, it's the simple stuff that makes that makes the big impact sometimes.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what do you find are the biggest challenges that prevent law firms from maximizing their profits?
I think time. Well, no, two things. Two things. I would say time, but then we all have never have enough time in our lives. I think, and it was really nice actually from dealing with American firms and people like yourself and coming to Florida last week. I think in general, I would say you Americans are more commercial than we are in the UK for whatever reason, or maybe I'm talking to a higher echelon. I think they're really good or better than we are, I think. But lawyers aren't trained to be business people. But then
Hmm.
hardly any business owners are trained to be business people, in all fairness. But with the professionals, the accountants, the lawyers, the medics, all that kind of thing, you're generally a professional first, and a business person second. And I think the tradition, if you like, with law firms was just keep billing. As long as you bring all that fee in, everything's going to be okay. And I think probably I was chatting to lots of people in America last month. The world has changed so much. The environment for law firms has changed dramatically in the last 10 to 20 years. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to keep changing. With AI, and people are starting to realize how much quicker you can get your systems and your processes, be it with AI or without. I think people are starting to get switched on to how much more efficient they could be and need to be to retain profits and keep clients. And I think those that don't are going to suffer. So that's
Hmm.
one thing. What is the time? One is the tradition. We need to learn how to run a business now. And I had a really good chat with a lawyer I know in Gibraltar. And we spoke about how lawyers are trained to get things right. I know it sounds crazy, don't be right. But they're almost like they've got this big focus on perfectionism. And when I try and talk to them about we need to get hold of your numbers, it's like they're afraid to not be accurate, which makes sense. They're lawyers. You don't want to be making stuff up in court or giving you bad advice. But it's really interesting. They're just kind of afraid to do an estimate or afraid to take action without having the complete picture or the complete, the absolutely correct details. And it was again, chatting when I was in America, they had all these strategies they wanted to implement because they couldn't get hold of the correct numbers. They did nothing, and a year later, they'd still done nothing.
Hmm.
And you're better off having 100% action, 100% imperfect action than 0% perfect action. So I think that's maybe a habit, a kind of a mindset that lawyers have been trained to do. I think that they don't like anything that's many don't like anything that's imperfect or inaccurate. And
Yeah.
I think when you get into the business side of things, sometimes you just got to make decisions on that because you can you can guesstimate your revenues or guesstimate your margins, or you can guesstimate something that's close enough to take some actions. And as you start taking actions, you can refine it and refine it and refine it. So it's that paralysis of analysis that I think some lawyers can suffer from, which
Hmm.
can be really quite, which really holds them back to moving forward sometimes, I think.
Yeah. I've heard the expression perfection is the enemy of progress and profits. So it dovetails right
Great.
into what you're talking
Yeah,
about. So you
absolutely.
mentioned AI, John. So what do you see as some of the emerging trends along with AI that law firms should be preparing for right now?
Well, if I go back 30 years, I said the internet would never catch on. So I wouldn't take my advice on this. I think, I don't know. So I'm not really a technical person. But again, when I was in the States, met some brilliant speakers there. I was speaking on profitability, and they were just showing me what is already being used. I can't and won't comment on the legal side of things, but in the business side of it, my God, the systems, the processes, just the way things are making work better was incredible. I'm at a really good company who they work with PI. I'm sure they work with PI firms. It was yes, they were. What the AI can do, they've got a whole kind of CRM, so customer relationship management software, and all the leads that are coming in, they are getting forms that they can populate because not many people, this was said on the conference, not everybody wants to get on the phone. Some don't want to or can't, and
Yeah.
by only using the phone, you're missing a chunk of potential clients. So they have an onboard, it's like a chat bot basically, and it gets them to fill in a certain form. It's really simple to do. Then
Hmm.
the AI will stratify them in terms of value. Is it a high value, medium value, low value customer? So the AI can work it out from the answers they give. It will then identify what actions to take. And if it's one that they want to phone quickly, it will phone the AI, the bot, whatever. It will phone the lawyer. So the lawyer picks up the phone, then it puts it through for the respective client. But
Hmm.
all imagine how much time that's saving. That's done in a fraction of a second. But
Sure.
the amount of time it would take to do all that. So I think and that's, I'll say it's simple. I wouldn't want to build the algorithm for that, but it's some relatively simple things, excuse me, it's going to improve efficiency, help better simple decisions like that to be made quite quickly. And I think it's going to save a lot of time, and I think it's going to help people prioritize a lot better so they
Hmm.
can do the work a bit better. And that's only on the marketing side. So I'm sure in business systems it's going to help. So yeah, I think there's some amazing stuff going on. I'm completely non-technical, but it's going to be amazing how that moves forward. And I think my thoughts on that, like I said, law is changing, has changed, will continue to change. Those that start to use it, even on a small scale, and start to get utilizing, understanding what it can do, I think they are going to move it so far ahead of those that don't. It's going to be frightening.
Yeah, that makes
Because their
sense.
efficiencies will go up. So and the customer service is going to be so much better as well.
Yeah, all of that makes sense. Yeah, as things change, if you don't evolve, then yeah, as we're learning every day.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
super.
absolutely.
Great. Well, John, thank you very much. How do people get in touch with you? Can you give us your contact information, and then I'll put it up on the screen for everyone?
Yeah, sure. My email is good. It's john@summitbusinesses.com. So it's
Okay.
BUSINESSES.com.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn. We should check out what my handle is on LinkedIn. I can't remember. But
We'll
yeah,
put it up for them.
you could drop that on there. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll drop it in
LinkedIn
the screen.
is quite good. But the email is good. That's probably the
Okay.
best way. Yeah, and I just genuinely really enjoy chatting to Americans. I think you think big, you move fast. And I'm working with some clients over there now, and it's so much fun to work with. And it was really interesting when I went there because I met a lot of PI lawyers
Right.
in the audience I was speaking to. Yeah, and I think that the pace at which they move by necessity. No, I can't speak. Necessity was really interesting to see. So they can do really well when they start to get it right, or get it better, I should say.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much again. I am sure I will see you around in our various circles, and hopefully some of the folks watching this will reach out and talk to you about some of your expertise and learn how you can help them grow their practices.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention actually, any of your viewers or your connections, we do something called the Business Growth Matrix, which I
Huh?
help them score themselves on the
Okay.
5 levels and the 3 pillars and the 9 step, which I didn't talk about because it's going to take too long. But
Okay.
I'm happy. It takes about 45 minutes. If anybody wants to do, I'm happy to do with them, and I'll gift that time as a gift. But it gives them a really good sense check of where
Oh,
they are,
super.
where they're doing well, and where the gaps are to plug. Happy to do that for any of your connections there.
Okay. And you know what? We'll mention that on the closing screen as well, so people know they can reach out to you for that as well.
Sure.
Super.
No worries. Brilliant. Thanks so much,
All right,
John.
John. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.